cause even more erosion along the Northumberland Strait. Last week's storm already caused considerable damage in places like Marshville, the kind of destruction to the shoreline locals have not seen in a long time. Tim Webster is a research scientist with the Applied Geomatic Research Group at NSCC. Sir, you have some concerns of coastal erosion from storm surge with this storm coming tonight. What concerns you in particular?
Well, Tom, we just got hit last weekend, as we're all aware. Obviously, it was a big snow event for some of us, but also there were reports of significant erosion on the Northumberland Strait. So myself and a few of my teammates went there yesterday and did some surveying, and we clearly observed significant erosion, especially where the mud bank was exposed to the power of the North Atlantic. It was cut back vertical, and several cubic meters of material has been removed there. And now, we have another storm coming with even predictions of some surges coming on later this week and into next. So the shore could really take a battering here with these storm surges. And of course, tonight we've got a full moon.
Yeah, and so the combination is not good for sure. You talked about that vertical cutting of the bank. Can you just explain that for me a little bit? What's happening when erosion happens on the north shore of Nova Scotia in that particular part of the province?
Sure. So a lot of our coastline is made up of what's called glacial till. Basically, material left over when the glaciers passed by. And for those that have cottages or live on the North Shore, it's comprised of red clay. When it's dry, it's very hard. When it's wet and saturated, it's basically soupy and liquefied. So what happens when these winter nor'easters come through? The bank probably wants to just sit at 45 degrees. That's its natural slope. It can be at equilibrium, if you will. Now what happens is when these storm surges come in, they chew away at the toe of the slope until the bank is basically cut vertical up to whatever point, depending on the water level and the amount and the time the surge has to chew away at it. So at this point, if you were to go out and look at any of these banks that suffered erosion, they would have a vertical face right now. Now, we had that cold snap, so the ground is frozen again. But what will happen if there's no other erosion this winter, let's say, come spring, when things start to thaw, the ground becomes saturated, that vertical slope is now going to slump. The bank is going to slump and eventually come back to its 45-degree angle where it's happy. And what that will do is have a bank that was like this in the fall, it got cut vertical, and then basically in the spring it will have slumped again down to that 45 degrees. So when you come back in the spring to your cottage, the bank may look very similar to what it looked like in the fall. However, it's actually moved back, perhaps 1 to 2, several meters in some cases.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so that
process.
So you get the erosion that happens tonight, but then you get the follow-up that happens in the spring. If you're a property owner listening to this, you're concerned, obviously. What can be done about it? What tools are out there that can be used?
So we've developed if you were to Google AGRG, stands for Applied Geomatics Research Group, space flood risk, we've developed a tool that essentially, where we've done some detailed elevation mapping, we can get the prediction of the tide for the next 10 days, plus whatever the predicted storm surge is. And as we look at that chart and move to different places of the chart, we can then see the water level being updated on the map. So it's really a map that shows us what's at risk of flooding. But what people may find useful is that you can see what the elevated water levels will be above normal. So for example, up around the Malagash area and the Cape John area, it looks like the prediction for a surge is on the order of about 50 to 60 centimeters. Now we've got a full moon, so we're going to have a fairly high tide, so we're going to have fairly elevated water levels according to the predictions. And then there are some events coming later on down the week and into next week that that also show those water levels. So it's not a site that's really designed to tell you whether you're going to have erosion or not, but rather if you're going to have elevated water levels, if there's a risk of flooding. And of course, from there, you can then get us that, oh, wow, the water levels are going to be quite a bit higher than usual. We know an area that typically erodes. Chances are we're going to have some erosion take place with this upcoming storm. Moving forward, when people buy coastal property, they should think about erosion and not build too awfully close to the shoreline, because the way that things are going, these surges are becoming more frequent, it appears. And of course, with sea level rise, this is going to be an even more bigger problem as we go down the road.
For Tim Webster, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Tom.